I have one called Click, which is not a very common purple stripe, but it's hotter than blazes. I mean, because I do eat raw garlic, so I mean, I can attest. I was on my knees with that one.
Hey everyone, welcome to CNG Field Notes. This is a podcast rooted in the unique experience of our certifications peer review inspections. Our goal is to capture the farmer-to-farmer knowledge exchange we see happening at the local level and to share it across our CNG community and beyond. I'm your host, Erin Torgerson, CNG Certification Specialist and Programs Coordinator. Today we have the honor of talking all about garlic with Ed Fraser of Fraser's Garlic outside of Rochester, New York. This is a really great conversation with Ed. We get into the how-to of it all, from soil prep and pest management and seed selection. We feel really fortunate to have this time with Ed and gain a bit of the garlic wisdom he's been gathering up over the last 32 years of growing. But before we get too deep, we would love to say a huge thank you to the kind folks at Keen Garlic. Keen Garlic is a trusted source of certified garlic and heirloom garlic seed grown right here in the U.S. Whether you're planting for market, CSA shares, or your own pantry, Keen Garlic has a deep catalog of CNG compliant varieties, plus tried and true growing tips to set you up for a strong harvest. Every bulb comes from generations of careful stewardship and a deep commitment to quality. As you know, garlic seed is hard to come by at the end of the season, but Keen Garlic does have some garlic seeds still available, so be sure to visit keenorganics.com to choose your ideal variety and get planting. Okay, let's get started in this conversation with Ed. Here we go. All right, so we are so excited to be joined by CNG member Ed Fraser today from a Fraser's Garlic farm, joining us on Field Notes. Ed has been growing garlic southwest of Rochester, New York for over 3 decades, and for around the last 10 of those years, he's been helping aspiring garlic farmers get started on the right path. We know a lot of farmers have garlic on the brain this time of year, so we thought it'd be a good time to talk to you, Ed. So if you just want to start things off by telling us a little bit about your farm and where you're at, your kind of growing environment, and how you got started growing garlic.
Yeah, so I mean, we are located here in the Northeast. I came to this little piece of dirt 32 years ago, and I've always grown things. When I was growing up, I had big gardens, and then of course I worked on farms and things like that. And I just love to be outside. So when I moved into the place, I was talking to one of my friends, and I said, "Well, I've got 10 acres out here. What do you think I ought to start growing?" He says, "Oh, garlic." I said, "Well, I love garlic." So I hurried around. I found a little bit of garlic that I could put in the ground. I did that, and in the spring, I just absolutely loved it when it came up. It's one of the first things that does come up out of the ground in the spring a lot of times. So from that point, I was just like enthralled and continued on, and it's just one of those things that kind of came into my life, and I just can't quit.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Did you grow up in the around the same area?
Yeah, so I grew up in Niagara County, which would be near Niagara Falls, but out in the country. Okay. Um, that's mostly fruit over there, but of course I had a big vegetable garden when I was growing up, etc. Um, and that is only, I'm probably about an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes from home. And now I am about southwest of Rochester, New York, kind of near the thruway as it goes along the state, etc. Um, and so I'm not that far from where I grew up, etc. But I had taken a job in the Rochester area, and so moved closer to the city. I wouldn't move into the city because I'm just not one of those kind of people that lives in a city, which is nothing wrong with living in the city, but it's not me. And then, push come to shove a few years later, I met my wife, and, we decided to purchase this place and, start growing things. Yeah.
Cool. And you said you worked on a few farms before that. Were they mainly vegetable production?
No, they were mainly fruit like grapes, apples,
Yeah.
apples, pears, cherries, things like that. Mostly grapes, though. Yeah.
So when you got your land, this was like kind of the first time of really like getting into the soil, doing an annual crop, more or less,
Yes.
besides your veggie garden growing up.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, because, as I went along and learned a lot more, I would, grab little pieces of equipment that I might need, et cetera. Of course, I had to have a couple of tractors. And then I had just kind of expanded the garlic, but I also started growing other vegetables, and I got into some farmers markets. I was in farmers markets for about 3 years until the garlic business kind of exploded, and then I just didn't have time anymore to do farmers market because I think everybody knows that farmers markets, they do take a lot of time. I love them. I love talking to people. I love the customers, etc. Pretty excited about getting people really good clean food, but at the same time there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
um, so yeah. And I just decided to kind of springboard into expanding the garlic business, and
Yeah.
here I am.
At what point in the like, 3 decades did that happen, where the garlic really started to be the main deal?
Yeah, yeah. It really did, and the more people I talked to, the more people that were interested in it and interested in, getting my crops, etc., or buying the garlic. And also I had to learn how to market it. So I just kind of, along the way, every year, I would continue to learn more about it, and that also became an interest of mine as well, as how do you market this stuff out all over the United States, for
Hmm.
people to plant. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, we're excited to get into all of that. Let's start, I guess, with the nitty gritty, just kind of the starting from choosing your seed. And so you said when you first started, did you just go straight to a store and buy up some garlic and throw that in the ground, or did you spend time kind of
Well,
sourcing
it's
seed?
funny because well, that first year, that first fall, I was scrambling because I mean it was October. I talked to a garlic farmer in the area, and he was saying, well, you might want to, get yourself some seed, some heads and cloves, and start putting it in the ground right away. So like I'm running around, so I go to the store and I buy some garlic real quick, and I put in, oh, I don't know, probably 100 cloves in this little piece of dirt. And then in more speaking with this person again, he was telling me, well, that's really not going to grow because it's a soft neck, probably produced in China, et cetera. It may have sprout inhibitor on it, et cetera, et cetera. So then I was really scrambling, and I went to a local Agway store, and in the bottom of a bushel basket, there were something like 10 heads. So of locally grown stuff. So I grabbed a hold of it, and I broke it all apart and put that in. And it's really funny because what came up in the spring were these little wispy things, which was the stuff I had gotten out of the store, and then these really nice, beautiful plants um, from the heads that I got out of the Agway store.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's
That's
kind of
really
where it started a little bit. Made a couple of mistakes along the way, but
yeah. At what point did you really start to like hone in on different varieties and all that?
yeah. Also, this other garlic farmer was kind of a mentor for the first couple 3 years, and he had a number of different varieties that he was growing, and so he would tell me the differences between them, etc. He had some soft necks and some hard necks, so I had to learn what is a soft neck, what is a hard neck. Then, as I went along a little further, I began to mentor with a whole bunch of other people, as well as doing some reading, etc., and began to learn that there are actually 10 families of garlic, and then among those families, you have a whole bunch of different varieties. The porcelain family, which is a very common garlic. Okay. So you've got like this German white, you've got Georgian crystal, you've got Zemo. Those are different varieties within that family. And we have purple stripes. Maybe a Matachi would be one. Chestnut is another one. Those are all they have a different DNA and they grow differently and they look a lot different. Their flavor is different. They might be spicier, they might be a little more mild, etc. I have one called Kisklik, which is not a very common purple stripe, but it's hotter than blazes. I mean, because I do eat raw garlic, so I mean, I can attest. I was on my knees with that one. So there are some garlics that don't grow really well here in the Northeast. That they need a warmer climate,
Mm-hmm.
especially the softnecks. Seem to like warmer climates a little bit better usually. There are some softnecks that do okay up here in the north, but there are also like there's another family of garlics are the Creoles, and they seem to really like the Southwest, nice and hot and dry. And so each one of these varieties, they have a lot of differences about them, and then in selecting them, I really wanted things that would grow well here. And I have found that the purple stripes do very well here. Um, Sometimes the rocambole, that's another family of garlics, can do quite well here as well, usually at a higher elevation, very, very cold. Um, and of course the porcelains. I like to grow the porcelains because they're easy. People really like them a lot. They got plenty of heat, and plenty of really really nice garlicky flavor, and they're easy to handle in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of times the cloves are a little bit bigger, than say a soft neck garlic, which is something you might find in the grocery store or something like that, where they have a lot of little tiny cloves. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. I guess for folks that are real novices, can you just give like the quick kind of layman's terms difference between soft neck and hard neck?
sure. So hardnecks, there are among those 10 families, there are eight families of hardnecks, and a hardneck garlic shoots a stem. It has a hard stem in the center of the head. Okay, a soft neck garlic, which there are two families of that, the artichokes and hmm, the other one
We'll
just
look
is.
it up.
Yeah. Anyway, those do not have a stem in the center. They just have a bunch of cloves, and then when you're seeing them in the field, um, they just have a lot of leaves that come up, and they do not send up a stem, and they do not have what we call a scape that comes out of the top of the hardneck garlics, you know, say in around the beginning of June. Okay, and a lot of people actually use the scapes to cook with, yeah, because they're very tasty as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the difference between a soft neck does not have a stem in the center, and the hard neck does have a stem in the center.
Cool. Great. And yeah, and you just noted that the soft necks do a little bit better in the south in the warmer climates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
people still grow them up here, and they're fine. I kind of have given up on them because some years they do pretty good,
mhm.
and some years I don't know why they just have not produced well for me. So yeah, I let people farther south than me take on that challenge.
Yeah. So you said you like to sample the raw garlic. When you're selecting seed, are you selecting more for things that do well in the field or more for flavor? Do you
Yeah,
find a happy medium?
I do both. I do both. As long as it grows well for me in the field. Over the years, I have cut a few out because they didn't do well for me. Um, and they didn't seem to like growing in my soil. Okay. Um, because that's another thing too. I mean, they are sensitive to different soils as well as climates. And for instance, like okay, the porcelains do really well for me. I have a like a clay loam body type of soil, and they seem to really like that. It's a mineral soil, and they really, really seem to like that a lot. Um, so they grow very well here. And the purple stripes too. They seem to as well. But you may take the porcelains and you might see like we'll take the German white for instance, very common. Okay, German extra hardy or German white, same it's the same garlic. Um, and you may see it from a farm, oh, probably about 100 miles from me. The person has more of a sandy loam type of soil. It's going to look just a tiny bit different than mine, but it's going to be the exact same garlic. So a lot of times it's a little bit difficult to ID what variety a garlic is because of that reason. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know
makes
if I'm
sense.
answering the question, but
Yeah.
you
No,
know.
that makes sense. Well, that segues into my next question, which is if you were to start again on a kind of a barren field, how would you approach getting that soil ready for a garlic crop?
Well, one of the things we do is we like to cover crop, okay, in order to build the health of the soil. Um, I'm an organic farmer. Well, of course, I'm certified naturally grown, but I am an organic farmer. Okay. And we like to use cover crops to continue to build the soil, etc. What I need to do a lot of times is to incorporate that cover crop into the soil, and I generally do that with a couple of different tools. I start out a lot of times with a chisel plow. Okay, not a bullboard plow because that kind of destroys the structure of the soil, but I like the chisel plow because it'll rip it and kind of keep things a little bit more intact. And then sometimes, depending on how much we'll call it trash or vegetation is still there, I can use a perfecta. Okay, and that basically also continues to rip it, and it has a rolling basket on the back to like, break up clumps and stuff like that. I can also use a disc, and I can disc it, and I like to get it kind of all nice, nice and fluffed up, etc. And then I will go in with a bed shaper, and I make 30-inch wide 4-inch tall beds. And we just did that today, and they're absolutely gorgeous. Um,
I
uh,
love that.
and so, anyway, with those 30-inch top beds, that's my preparation for getting ready to plant uh, in the soil. And of course, we're also just quickly, I just want to mention that we rotate every 3 to 4 years. So in other words, I don't grow garlic in that same spot for at least another 3 or 4 years.
Right.
In the meantime, I may have another crop there. I might have potatoes, or some other, maybe some leafy vegetables or something like that, and a lot of cover cropping and those types of things
Yeah.
during that period.
Had you been doing that rotation from the beginning, or was there a time where you used the same field again and again, and you noticed kind of a change in the crop?
No, I've always rotated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when you talk about cover crop, are you what different seeds are you using in that mix of cover crop?
Sure. I like clovers, yellow sweet clover, maybe a medium red, clover, uh, those types of things, as well as buckwheat. Buckwheat is one of my favorites. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that it's so beautiful, and it's also, it has a tendency to mellow the soil out, etc. It doesn't really add nitrogen like the clovers do as much, but it does, mellow out the soil. I also like to use some rye, so that we get a lot of fibrous root systems going down in there. And then once that's terminated, the root systems can compost down and you get a lot of organic matter in the soil. Sometimes I use a little bit of sorghum Sudan grass. Um, I have to be a little careful about that because I think it was my third or fourth year, and I thought, wow, this sorghum Sudan, it produces a lot of organic matter, right? So it was like probably about 15 feet high. And then I was like, well, what am I going to do with it now? How am I going to get that into the soil? So I
Yeah.
had to learn that that's not the way you use sorghum Sudan.
Yeah.
Along the way, I had to I had to learn all these things. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, I used to also attend a lot of workshops about cover cropping, about growing certain vegetables, um, and gotten to the point where like when I was certified organic through the USDA and through NOFA in New York,
Hmm.
I would go to their winter conferences, and every other year I was invited to give presentations on growing garlic. I would be the farmer piece, and Crystal Stewart from Eastern New York State. She's a great garlic guru person. She would do all the scientific stuff, etc. And it was a pretty popular session every
Yeah.
year. So yeah, a lot of people would fill the room and ask lots of questions, which was really nice.
That's
So I
cool.
mean, as I went along, not only did I learn from other people, but I also learned from my own practices
Hmm.
and what to do and not to do, and then be able to also help other people learn about how to grow it as well.
Right. And we talked on the phone a couple weeks ago, and you said that you do a lot of work with scientists or just different kind of research projects, maybe local universities, to like
Yes.
dive into the soil a little bit deeper.
Sure. So, I like to work closely with Cornell. We have in New York State, we have a vegetable team, and these are kind of the on-the-road people that are part of Cornell Cooperative Extension. And we all work very closely together, but they do a lot of trials, and they've done trials on my farm. And a lot of times we sit and have discussions about what should we look into next. Like one year, we were talking about uh, what can we do about fusarium, okay? And it becomes problematic in garlic sometimes. So we'll do a trial. So we were doing a couple year trial with that, and trying to inoculate the garlic with the fusarium, and found out that even though garlic has a little bit of fusarium on it, when you're splitting open the cloves and ready to plant,
Hmm.
um, apparently it grows out of it because we couldn't get it to reproduce no matter what we did.
Interesting.
So I mean, we would do things like that.
Hmm.
And there have been some SARE grants,
Hmm.
Sustainable Agriculture Resource Education, I think it is called.
Hmm.
And yeah, there have been some SARE grants. I have not particularly directly participated in one, but
Hmm.
yeah, some of my friends have. And yeah, but we all kind of closely talk to each other. Now, this is another thing that happens too. It seems like with garlic, a lot of times every year there seems to be another, we'll call it a dilemma, or some disease that came in, or something like that. So this year it looks like what is moving into our area is the allium leaf miner. And so we've been working on, well, how are we going to mitigate the situation? Okay, so we've come up with a plan to do that for next year. I really didn't see it in my garlic this year, but I had a neighbor garlic farmer. Well, he's not really, no, I'm sorry, he's not a garlic farmer. He's a good, excellent vegetable grower. And he got a lot of alien leaf miner into his garlic. Okay, so we've been talking to, and he knows what to do for this next year. But I know it's coming to me at some point, probably this coming year. So we've got a plan ready to go. Last year, I think it was the areophid mite or areophyte mite. Now that's a little microscopic mite that can get into your garlic. It's out there in nature, okay? Why it chose to come into the garlic, we don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
But we learned a lot about that. The Cornell people, the scientists end of things, they they discover what it is and they figure out how to take care of it organically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we're ready for that anytime. So we're always watching out for it. But this year we didn't really see it. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. Way back, probably now about 15 years ago, we had garlic bloat nematode come in. There was a farmer, actually not that far from me, probably about 15 miles from me, that was bringing garlic in from Canada as food grade and then turning around and selling it as seed. But it was laced with this garlic bloat nematode, which is a very destructive little nematode.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the person was selling it to a seed company,
Mm.
and the seed company didn't know it, and the seed company spread it all over the United States. So we've been hammering away, trying to get rid of it at every little turn. And we're doing pretty good, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still out there, unfortunately. And people will yeah, people will call me up a lot of times and they'll say, "Well, it looks like I have garlic blood nematode in my uh in my garlic, And I says, "Well, how do you know?" And they're like, "Well, it just looks like it." And I says, "Well, no, you're not going to know unless you send it to a lab." Sometimes they send it to a lab, and then they do know that they've got it. I said, "Well, where did you get the seed stock?" And they'll say, "Oh, my local farmer's market. It was beautiful stuff." And I said, "Yeah, but did you ask the person if it was really appropriate to plant or if they had it tested or no, no, I never thought of that. It's like, okay, well, now you got it. So, anyway, things like this, as we go along, there's just a lot of, diseases, hitchhikers, stuff like that we have to learn about and then figure out how to mitigate it organically.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm gonna jump back to soil prep and think about that. So you do cover crop, you work it with tractor, with your different tools, and you shape your beds. Are you adding any other kind of compost or inputs at all?
I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the next thing I do with those beds, okay, is I like to drop a little bit of a composted manure, chicken manure base, um, um, fertilizer. Okay, it's an organic fertilizer. All right, we can get it close to us, and I put a little bit of that in so that it has a high nitrogen value, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, um, we spread a finished compost, and lucky for us, we now have a really nice compost making facility, manufacturing facility, only within about 45 minutes from my farm. And they're a newer situation. They've only been in for about 5 years, but they're doing an excellent job. And I now have a couple piles out there ready to go to spread on the beds. But yes, I like to put that compost on there.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we do is we just dibble into that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a dibbler from Two Bad Cats, which unfortunately went out of business this last spring. But it's just one that you just roll right down the beds, even by hand. And I can make 3 rows on a 30-inch bed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it basically shows the planters, which we all plant by hand, okay? It shows them where to stick that clove in, and then they can go right along and do that.
Yeah, that's great. Do you do any kind of do you wash your seed with any like peroxide or do like a soak in a fertilizer? Any steps
No,
like that?
no, I don't. Some people do, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's if there were pathogens on the exterior of the clove that might that might destroy the plant or something like that, okay, it will kill that off,
Mm-hmm.
okay. But usually what we try to do when we're splitting up heads into cloves is we just kind of watch and see, that we just kind of watch. And of course, we're not planting things that are, cloves that are fairly compromised, like, half rotten or something like that. You know what I mean? Um, and I really haven't had a lot of problems as far as the plants coming up. They're coming up pretty healthy generally,
Great.
um, yeah, kind of thing. So I don't bother dipping,
Mm-hmm.
but some people would like to, and that's fine. Yeah, they just put it into a net bag and dip it into a 5-gallon bucket of something that a solution of maybe a little bit of sanidate or something like that, or in order to kind of it gives them a little bit of reassurance that they're maybe killing off some things that might harm the garlic as it's growing. But I haven't seen too much problem with that, so I don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good to know. Good to know.
yeah.
Do you go ahead and mulch right away after you get it in the ground?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is the great part. So what we do, and I have some round bales of hay out there, okay? And what we do is we take the hay bales apart with pitchforks,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you got a big pile of nice fluffy stuff. And then we place it onto the beds after we have planted, and we like to put it on fairly thick. If you look at it or try to measure it or something like that, we're probably putting it on 10, 12 inches thick at least.
Mm-hmm.
But when what it does is it compacts down over winter with the snow and the rain and all, and then the garlic comes right through it.
Mm-hmm.
But it does uh, it's great weed suppression material. It also keeps a lot of moisture in the soil, and it also, can compost down a little bit and help feed the soil, which then in turn feeds the soil, the garlic, etc. And even after we've harvested, it's still there. So if we can incorporate that back down into the soil, we've also added more compost, we'll call it, or vegetative material or organic material into the soil, and it helps to build the soil as well.
Right.
Now, a lot of people will say, "Well, jeepers, you're using hay. You're going to kind of probably get a lot of weed seeds in there." And well, yeah, you do, but because um, I don't do real heavy duty tillage, so I'm not bringing up a lot of the weed seed bank over the
Mm-hmm.
next 3 or 4 years. That's one thing that helps. We also try to keep the weeds down, cut down or whatever. And a lot of the cover crops help too. They will really discourage the weeds from growing, especially like Canadian thistle and stuff like that. Um, it really hates buckwheat, so it's it just doesn't get a chance to grow very well because the buckwheat comes up so fast and it shades it out and yeah, it doesn't grow very well. So, um, but I don't like to use straw. Straw has a couple of drawbacks, and one is that it can harbor more fusarium
Mm-hmm.
in it and maybe some other diseases. It also has a lot of seed in it generally from farms. Um, Unless you can find straw that was taken off of a field that was fairly clean and weed, as well as did not head out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're just taking some grassy material and then drying it down, and that would work out pretty good. And I wish I had the equipment to do that and had a little bit of land to grow it on because I would probably do that instead of using the hay. But I think that hay is my easiest and best material that I can get my hands on, for
Yeah.
the, yeah.
I definitely have put on a lot of hay and then had it all turned into grass, so I'm always a little nervous, but
Yeah, yeah, people get nervous about it,
yeah,
but now I have a lot of people who are using it and they seem to say it's just fine.
great. Do you go and irrigate right away?
No, No, we really don't. Usually what happens, well, you can see, I mean, we're at the end of October now, and I'm just getting ready to plant. Well, we're beginning to get more moisture now. Okay. So I really don't need to right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I were to plant, uh, say earlier in the year, like in September or something like that, I mean, here in New York State, we really didn't have a lot of moisture, and we were in a drought. Now, one of the drawbacks about planting then, when you don't have moisture in the soil, is that when you put the clove into the soil, because it's so dry, you run the risk of drying out that clove and killing it, actually. Okay. So actually, a case in point, I have a friend who farms over near Cooperstown, New York, and he did plant at I think it was like the third week of September. He's at a very high elevation, so it gets cold real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he also was in a drought. So he set up his irrigation and he did irrigate in order to, avoid that he would dry out the seed, etc. So
Right.
that worked out really well. But I do irrigate during the season if need be.
Mm-hmm.
I go out and I use a very scientific method of finding out how much soil is in the or how much moisture is in the soil,
Yeah, I have a
and
feeling
it's
I know what
called
it
my
is.
index. It's my index finger. It's the best.
That's, I mean, that's the secret of farming.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Just knowing how it feels. That's the
Yeah,
most important thing.
yeah.
So if it feels dry, then you'll turn it on.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Mhm.
And are you doing
And
overhead?
sometimes I will use drip and sometimes I will use overhead. Just depends upon the time I have that year and where the field is that I need to irrigate and things like that. So
If you were doing drip, you would put it on right after you planted before the mulch.
yeah, well, no, a lot of times I don't have the time. I do have a piece of equipment that can do that,
Uh-huh.
but uh, what I really like to do is uh, I can lay the drip right on top of the hay and right next to the plants,
Mm-hmm.
and then just turn it on, and it does a really nice job. It actually it'll wet it down in there, and then it also keeps the hay somewhat wet,
Mm.
and that works out. Yeah, I mean I could put in the drip before like while I'm making the beds, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But um, eh, a lot depends on the time you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, I just sent out something like I think it was probably close to 700 pounds of garlic today. Well, to do that, I by UPS, it takes a lot of time. I mean, there's labels, there's packing, there's putting all those things together. Um, and we started on that one yesterday, even though yesterday we also packed another 400 or 500 pounds or something like that. It's sort of the end of the season. I was surprised to have it. Anyways, it's a lot of time, and the weather is, closing in on us. And did I want to lay drip along with making the beds? I just don't have the time
Yeah.
because now tomorrow it's going to start raining like crazy for about 3 or 4 days. So, so you have to kind of watch that too, you know.
Yeah.
Do you have the time to do it? No, but then can you do it overhead? Can you do overhead irrigation during the season? Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Um, will I have time to lay drip line, in the spring? Maybe.
Yeah.
Then again, maybe not. I don't know. It's a lot of
Yeah.
it's a time thing.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So now it's in the ground. It's mulched. We checked the irrigation. You were talking about, getting to know these different pests and different dilemmas that can come up. How do you monitor? How often are you monitoring the crop throughout the
Sure.
season?
We're out scouting every single week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I like to go out when it first starts poking through. And well, and, to see if maybe there were a few misses or something like that, then I can kind of, dig around down in the hay a little bit and see, is somebody struggling to, come up through the hay or not. That doesn't happen very common. It's not very common, but once in a while, So I do that. So I'm scouting, and then every week we scout to see what the plants are looking like. And so if we see a plant that is, it looks like it has some sort of a disease in it or something like that, we pull it out immediately and get it off of the property.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what it is, but I don't want it to spread. Sometimes I do know what it is. It's not garlic blood nematode. We have not had that on the farm, and ever, fortunately. But it might be just something else that attacked the garlic, and anyway, we get rid of it. So
Mm-hmm.
we also check the leaves to see if I feel it has enough nitrogen.
Mm-hmm.
If it does not, if I feel like it needs a little more of a shot of nitrogen, I can use some Chilean nitrate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's pretty hot stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't use very much of it. I just trickle a little tiny bit on the top of the hay next to the plant before a rain, and then it'll melt down and dissipate and go down where the plant needs the nutrition. That seems to give it a little bit of a boost if I need to. Now, like the last 3 years, I have not needed to do that.
Right.
But so I do have that tool in my toolbox. If I need it, I'll use it. If not, I don't bother.
Yeah. What are those? So you have the wisdom of many years, but what are when you say it feels like it needs more nitrogen? What are those indicators you're seeing?
What does it look like, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so usually if you see yellowing of the leaves just a little bit, now I don't mean yellowing of the tips so much because sometimes we had a real cold snap. Okay, something like it went down into the teens or the single digits even, or something like that at one point after the plant has come up about 6 to 8 inches.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it might burn the top of the leaves a little bit and they'll yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll know that. I'll say, oh, okay, 2 weeks ago we had that really cold snap, and so the garlic hopefully will grow back out of that without any trouble. So I'll just keep my eye on it. And then if I if I see that there is more yellowing, like what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, I'll just say, well, it looks like it might need a little more nitrogen, then I'll hit it with the Chilean.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So now it's about ready to. Do you harvest your scapes?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do. Some of them.
Yeah. Some of them.
Okay,
Just a
so
little bit.
many years ago,
Yeah.
I used to send probably a couple thousand pounds into New York City.
Right.
Um, it takes a refrigerated truck,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a gentleman who used to come around and he would buy them, especially for Asian markets,
Mm-hmm.
because that seems to be something that they absolutely love in their food.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would harvest all of them, kind of thing. And of course we would use some here. But um, unfortunately, I think it was we did that for about 8 or 10 years. I can't remember. And unfortunately, he had gotten himself into an accident and he didn't make it.
Oh,
So,
I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
it was a real
Yeah.
sad thing.
Yeah.
So, I didn't have that market anymore, and I
Yeah.
didn't have any way to get these things into New York City markets either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, I tried local markets and, could sell. Here and there,
Mm-hmm.
to some stores and things like that. But the market for scapes just kind of petered out a little bit
Yeah.
here locally.
Yeah.
And so I sell maybe 100 pounds to a couple of local organic co-ops and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. And then, of course, we keep some here to make pestos and,
Yeah.
cook with. whatnot. The rest of them just get snapped and put on the ground.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the problems is if I were to snap them off and keep all of them, um, yes, they store in a walk-in, which I have,
Hmm.
for probably as much as maybe 2 to 3 months, but it takes 3 times as long to make the selection
Hmm.
and to put them into a bucket. We did the timing on this, okay, with workers.
Hmm.
It takes about 3 times the amount,
Hmm.
um, rather than to just snap it and let it fall on the ground.
Right.
So we just snap them and let them fall on the ground.
But snapping them, the point of doing that is just so you get a bigger bulb.
Correct. Yeah,
Right.
because the energy, once you snap that off, the energy goes back down into the base of the plant and into the bulb.
Hmm.
If you leave the scape on,
Hmm.
okay, it will eventually kind of straighten out, and you'll have the aerial bulbils at the top.
Mm.
They're not true seeds because that is an asexual plant,
Hmm.
but they're like a clone of what's down under the ground. Okay. But anyways, with that, it seems like they put more energy into the scape and
Hmm.
into the aerial bulbils and not into the head of garlic. So a lot of times you get a smaller head than if you had maybe snapped the scape off and let the energy go back down into the formation of the bulb, kind of
That
thing.
makes sense.
Mhm.
And then what at what point do you start to see you're starting to see the leaves turn a little yellow when you make the call to harvest?
Okay, well, we don't use the leaf method
Mm-hmm.
because that could be very misleading.
Good. This is
Um,
why we're here.
so what happens? I get these people uh, all the time. They say, "Well, I counted there's like 4 dry leaves, and that's when I know I'm supposed to harvest because that's what this old guy told me years ago." And I said, "Okay, well, if you had put a little too much nitrogen on it, and there was a lot of water during, within the 4 months or 4 weeks before harvest, your plant is liable to stay greener a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
But then you might miss the window and it'll over mature
Mm.
because it won't dry down. And instead of drying that 4 leaves down in the middle of July, it, might not start drying down till like the first week of August. And
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh, okay, now it's time to pull it. And you pull it up and, you got your cloves all separated out and
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing. Um, and conversely, if you have a very, very dry season, you might think, oh, I got to pull that garlic now. It's like, the third week of June. And up here, that you're going to be immature. So what we do is we take a bulb. I start around 1st of July, maybe 4th of July, and I'll start pulling a couple of heads and I'll slice it in half so that you look at it and it has a cross section.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see that there's space beginning to form between the cloves and the central stem,
Mm-hmm.
then I know that it's about time to pull them. And you can also feel that the cloves are starting to push out against the outer
Mm-hmm.
um, covering of the bulb as well. And then it's time then.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes it's the 10th of July, sometimes it's the 15th, sometimes it's the 17th, right around in there in our area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
that's
best
the
just to kind of
telltale.
dick it up, get the cross section, and really
Right.
get it. Yeah, a look at
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah. That's the
And
best
then
way.
that
Mhm.
makes sense. Then when you pull it up, how what's your process to get it to cure?
Well, we undercut the garlic first, okay?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I also cut the tops of the garlic
Mm-hmm.
and leave a stem of about 8 to 10 inches long
Mm-hmm.
because I want to keep that leaf material in the field.
Right.
Because if we take that into our drying area, it's just that much more humidity that we have to try and dry down. And
Right.
so I've gotten into now just chopping that off, okay? Then we undercut it. I have an undercutter that was made by Buckeye Tractor out in Ohio. Excellent piece of equipment. Should have done it years ago. Um, yeah. Um, and then we pull it all out by hand,
Mm-hmm.
put it on a wagon, bring it in, put it on racks that I've
Mm-hmm.
built, usually in a high tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new structure this year. It's a coverall, and it very airy and not as warm as I'd like to be. So this is my first year with it, so we may make some changes,
Mm-hmm.
um, but the stuff dried down very quickly, and I put large fans uh, at the ends of the racks in order to make sure there's lots of air movement around.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we had a very dry summer, so that really helped, and hot
Mm-hmm.
too. Yeah, so that really helped a lot too. So it dried down very quickly. I like to get it cured down within 10 to 14 days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you
and then
doing any cleaning in the field? I know sometimes people take off the outer leaves just to get any extra dirt away, or do you bother with any of that?
they take the outer leaves off because of what reason?
Or just trying to get that like that little layer of dirt off the outside?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we pull it out, if it's a warm day and there's no imminent rain, sometimes I'll leave it lay there for in bundles, for a day,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll pick it up like the next day. But as you handle it and as it continues to dry, a lot of the dirt comes off of it. I have been years when we were kind of pulling it out in well, almost a swamp, I guess. I mean, we had some really horrible torrential downpours, et cetera, as we were trying to harvest. So there was a lot of mud on. We do not wash the garlic. We let the dirt dry and then just, brush it off with our hands, et cetera. And as you handle it, one that's on the racks and you want to bring it off and you want to trim down that last piece of stem and things like that, more and more dirt will come off.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have a brushing machine,
Oh, cool.
which I can put it through the brusher and that will take another layer usually off of the garlic and make it look a lot prettier. And then there's some handwork as well,
Mm-hmm.
to get it looking presentable anyway, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once it's cured, at what stage are you selecting seed for the next year?
For the next year,
Mm-hmm.
as we go along and we're grading the garlic to size,
Mm-hmm.
um, I, for my marketing purposes, I have a couple of different grade sizes depending on the variety, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then we try to also set aside some of the larger heads of garlic in order for me to replant because you like to kind of plant larger cloves if you can.
Mm-hmm.
It's not totally necessary, however. I have a lot of people who will buy my medium grade in order um, to plant their garlic because it's less money per pound,
Mm-hmm.
as well as they get more cloves per pound. So let's say something like the German white,
Mm-hmm.
in a 2.5 inch head, if they just bought all of those, they might get 30 cloves out of a pound.
Yeah.
And the cloves will be pretty good size,
Mm-hmm.
But yet, out of a medium grade, which is, 1.5 to 1.75 in diameter,
Mm-hmm.
you still get some nice plump cloves, a lot of nice plump cloves, but you might get like 50 to 60 cloves per pound. And I especially like to market to people like that have CSAs
Mm-hmm.
because if they plant that medium grade, you know, they're going to definitely get some very nice, at least 2 inch heads.
Mm-hmm.
And to put that into a CSA box is just like golden,
Yeah.
I mean, people really love it. We don't like to sell the great big 3 inch or 3.5 inch heads because people are only going to get about 15 cloves per pound,
Right.
as well as, I get a lot of complaints from people who they eat garlic, but maybe don't eat a lot of garlic. So, if if they buy one of those, and the one clove is like, three meals for them,
Yeah.
well, they'll cut up a little piece off of it to
Yeah.
make the recipe, and they wasted the rest of the clove, So a lot of
Yeah.
people, no, I don't want anything like that. Okay,
That makes sense. That makes sense.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like to use it one clove of garlic that's, maybe a small apple size, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you taught at the beginning, you said that you started to really enjoy the marketing and the business side over the years. How did that process, or like, how did that become an interest when you had all this garlic on your hands? How did you start to identify these different sales outlets? Because now you sell nationally, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just like to talk to people. Garlic seems to be one of those subjects that people like to talk about a lot. And so I do that, but I also like to talk farming. I like to talk organic farming. I like to talk about soil. And over the years, you just find more and more people who are interested in all those subjects, and because I'm not one of those people who is like in competition with anybody, I'm not in competition with anybody, and I like to kind of show people what I'm doing, but also I like to show people that it's okay. Like I can give them information. It makes me feel good, especially when they can use the information and they can have success at something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was trained originally as a teacher, although I went into social work.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Latin America. I'm totally bilingual, so I can do all this stuff with other cultures as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is, it's just, it fulfills my lifestyle, let's
Yeah.
put it that way. So yeah, I don't know. And
Yeah.
then the more I talk about people, I mean, I used to sell garlic to the French Laundry in
Yeah.
California, which a lot of people are like, the French Laundry? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, so that's a subject. We start talking about that. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just, one of
Yeah. How
those
did
things.
that come about? Did you start selling to like local restaurants, and then were you mainly selling it for culinary uses, or when did you start selling for seed?
Yeah, well, no, actually, the mentor that I had uh, was wanting me to actually grow garlic, and oh, I don't. Well, no, originally we were in these little garlic festivals,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And that was really cool. I mean, you set up and then of course the farmers markets that I was in for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the garlic festivals, those were cool. And then I became one who liked to help organize like a small local garlic festival. That was a lot of fun, and you meet a lot of local people that you didn't know before, and they're intrigued with what you're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was very cool. And yeah, of course, you make some money,
Yeah.
and that was pretty good. But and then I got into the Hudson Valley Garlic Festival, which is probably one of the biggest on the Eastern Seaboard,
Right.
whereas Gilroy, California, is like the huge one,
Yeah.
on the western side. But I was in that for 13 years.
Oh wow.
And yeah, there was like 60 of us, garlic farmers there, and everybody like sold like crazy. Yeah, you get, 50, 60,000 people coming into that thing every year. It's like, wow, And we'd make a vacation out of it, take the kids and, have fun and, it's a lot of fun. So it's not all work, but it's play as well,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And then it's just sort of, um, it expands in the sense that, all of a sudden your name's out there. Uh, people people like to find you because, they want to know more about garlic. They want to buy garlic. They want to plant garlic. There are a lot of people who want to plant garlic now in their gardens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm getting tons and tons of requests for, small amounts of garlic. And, I
Yeah.
don't, I'll just large quantities to one place like a seed company or something like that, which I do, but I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, that's not just what all I do.
Yeah. What percentage of your sales are seed versus culinary?
Oh, I'd say probably 95% is seed stock. Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah.
That's
Kind of
great.
cool, you know?
It is cool. I guess a lot of the folks in CNG, a lot of our vegetable growers are mainly like, diverse market garden, CSA garden kind of scale, who are probably growing a wide variety of crops. But um, can you talk a little bit about like the risk maybe, or just like what it looks like to have your farm focused around one crop? Because you do grow some other things, but garlic is the cash crop.
Yeah. The garlic is my main focus, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But like they're not that difficult for me to grow. And one of the nice things about having other crops on the farm, I wish I could grow everything, believe me,
Yeah.
but with this business, I can't. So, but I have a worker who comes 3 days a week, and then I have two workers who come on every Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to keep them busy so that I had them for the garlic
Mm-hmm.
harvest, processing, planting, and stuff like that, I have them taking care of these other crops as well.
Yeah.
And I don't make a lot of money on those. They're bulk sales, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really the purpose of it. Um, the purpose of having those crops is because, well, a couple of things. Again, I like to grow a lot of different things,
Yeah.
um, but also it helps me keep the workers here,
Yeah.
so they don't wander away. And then when I need them for garlic, they're gone. And also I'm feeding really nice, clean food to people, and I know people will appreciate it, and I know I'm not poisoning people, et cetera. Um, so there's good reason to grow a lot of that stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah. But
All
anyway,
right.
I
Uh,
do grow some other. Yeah.
yeah. Of course.
So go ahead. Anyway, yeah.
No, well, my question was going to be like if someone was listening to this podcast and they were like, that's it, I'm ripping out my 60 different varieties of vegetables and I'm just going to grow garlic, what would you say to them?
I would say that would be a great thing to do, but you might want to put a couple other things in,
Yeah.
just to have.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and but they would need to learn uh, how to do just garlic because I get a lot of people with those little money signs in their eyes going, oh, the garlic's going to really, put me over here, it's going to tie me for the rest of my life, that kind of thing. Um, and, yes, it's a very good market, etc. I'm not rich and I never will be. And I think that I'm selling things for, a very reasonable price. That's what people are telling me, because the
Mm-hmm.
seed companies are selling these garlic for double what I sell it for. But I think if people need to understand that it's a lot of hard work,
Mm-hmm.
okay, which I enjoy. Some people don't want to do that now. They don't want to, and some people do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ones who do, can get right into it and become very successful at it.
Yeah.
It's a very successful business, actually.
Yeah. And you've
Farming,
made a lot of investment in infrastructure and
right?
tools over time that have kind of helped along the process.
Exactly. There's still a fair amount of handwork in garlic.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, we plant by hand.
Mm-hmm.
We harvest by hand in the sense that, well, we undercut it, etc., with the tractor, but we still pull it out by hand.
Mm-hmm.
We rack it by hand,
Yeah.
etc. And there is a certain amount of cleaning and things like that by hand, processing, etc. But yes, there are some kind of essential tools,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, if you wanted to grow it in quantity, type of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Makes
and
sense. Well, I
I
have one more technical question and then a couple of quick wrap up questions.
sure.
Um, But I know the allium leaf miner is on a lot of folks' mind. I live in the southeast, and we've really struggled with it here. So you said you have a game plan. Can you talk a little bit about that game plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone has, we'll consider it to be something like a smaller planting. What you want to do is you want to isolate the garlic by using maybe some row cover or some protect net or something like that over the garlic. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so like we're talking probably, well, there's a fly up there. We're talking probably if somebody has a planting of a couple thousand plants or 3,000 plants or something like that, maybe, a couple of um, three or four, 100-foot long beds or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, it's doable to put some hoops out there and put the covering on it
Mm-hmm.
in order to isolate when the allium leaf miner are flying. Now
Mm-hmm.
their first flight usually is about the end of March.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then they may continue on, through into April, etc. There's another flight, I believe, the way it works, and yeah, I'm pretty sure, in September or later in August or September in that area, but we don't have to worry about it then because the garlic's not in the ground anymore.
Right.
Okay. So, um, at any rate, uh, what people need to do is to scout and see if they see those little tiny dots at the tip of the leaf, then
Mm-hmm.
they know they're beginning to lay eggs, etc. And it's time to like get that cover on right away.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can just go ahead and cover over it anyway, just in case the
Mm-hmm.
alien miner is going to be flying in their area,
Mm-hmm.
and laying eggs. Um, in my instance, I have too much garlic to do that with. I can't cover that much garlic, in fields, etc. So what I have to do is I have to use an organic spray,
Mm-hmm.
which is in trust,
Mm-hmm.
and it has spinosad in it. Um, and I have not had to do it yet, but this year, because we know that the LM is coming into the area, I will be scouting and I'll have some entrust on the shelf
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be getting ready. I'll make sure my sprayer is working. I have a sprayer that I've had brand new for about 10 years. I've never used it once for
We
anything.
love to see that.
Ah, well, my idea was, in case I got, a huge amount of Colorado potato beetle in my garlic or something like that, and I could just give them a quick, run through the field and spray some organic or something, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But anyway, that's never happened either. So, uh, I mean, I've gotten Colorado potato beetle, but what I mean is I don't use the sprayer.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, this winter, I have to get it all set up in case,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. It's got a couple of small booms on it, and I can just go down the fields and use the entrust. Um, so that's my plan for that as well. But
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take some serious scouting and
Mm-hmm.
also keeping your ear to the ground. Like Cornell Cooperative Extension, all
Mm-hmm.
those people, the vegetable people I was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
they will they will be alerting all of us
Mm-hmm.
if they happen to see that it has come into the area and that there's a flight, kind of thing. But in addition, I'm gonna, be proactive and be out there watching as well, kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, that's important. Mhm.
Would you spray when you see those dots start to form?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
And
Great.
it's not going to take care of everything,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But it's going to really, you know, it's going to help to reduce the damage for sure, and
Yeah.
kind of thing. But it's not going to, there's going to be some stuff that's going to get through, and that's just the way it is. But I won't use any kind of conventional other synthetic type of sprays. There's no
Mm-hmm.
way
Mm-hmm.
I would ever do that. Being an organic farmer, I just don't do that. I've lost crops because of that. But
Mm-hmm.
so what? That's life, I would rather do that than rather than poison the soil or,
Yeah.
or people or, something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that
Yeah.
leads perfectly to my next question because I know you were certified organic for many years, but can you talk a little bit about why you switched over to certified naturally grown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is going back, I think, 3 summers ago. I was certified organic for about 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was certified that summer. My inspector came in June, um, and did everything. And uh, then I passed, as I always do. There were no issues, um, and everything was fine. Then I get a call about a month later from NOFA, and they said, "Well, we have to have you become a handler because, you're also bringing garlic in from other farms, stuff like that." And I said, "Well, that's as you can see from all of my applications, ever since I started doing that about 15 years ago, I've always answered yes. And why is it you want me to do this now?" "Well, they're tightening up the rules and blah, blah, blah." "Okay." I said, "Well, send me the packet, I'll take care of it, but when do I have to have it done by?" And they said, "Well, probably, the middle of December is fine." Great. I got another call 2 days later, and it was one of the people down there, which I will not mention any names, said, "I'm sorry, we're not going to wait until December. You have to have it in by September 1st, or we're going to decertify you
Mm.
totally." And I'm like, "Wait a minute. This is July. I'm in the middle of my like crazy season. What are you talking about?" And you just sent me this packet of 25 pages, and I've got to go through a lot of records and do all this
Mm-hmm.
other stuff. I go, I can't do that. You know. So so she was just like, "Well, I'm sorry. That's the way it has to be."
Mm.
Okay. So I got really scared and I started working on it diligently. I was up late many nights. A lot of things on the farm were starting to like slide.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got it done. I
Mm-hmm.
set it in and I was certified.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. Yeah, no issues, blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right. So I got through this season, high stress. A lot of things were kind of falling apart, but I was picking them back up again, putting everything
Mm-hmm.
together. And then I sat down in November and I'd always heard about the Certified Naturally Grown program.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said to myself, well, why am I going through this? And now I'm paying a lot of money also for fees for, to be certified every year. I go, wait a minute. Do I really need this for my market anymore? Well, let me see. So I started calling some of the big buyers, like some of the seed companies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, there's a good, strong possibility I'm going to just like drop my certification, but I'm going to become certified naturally grown. And of course, I've been talking with people there at CNG, like
Mm-hmm.
Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, well, we'll get back to you. Well, shoot. Every single one of them got back to me within a couple of days. Well, we had a meeting and we're going to go with you because we
Oh,
like your product and
yeah.
we know that you're still going to be an organic farmer. So I said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, I was really kind of torn because, I was like certified from way back
Mm-hmm.
when it was a lot more farmer oriented rather
Mm-hmm.
than bureaucratic. And it was almost like, I was holding on to this, this thing that it was always a friend of mine, kind of thing. And so finally I just said, no, I'm going to go ahead with CNG.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't looked back since. I really love it.
Mm-hmm.
Being inspected by another farmer, and we can sit and talk about farming, and learn from each other. And then me inspecting another farm, doing the peer review, um, doing the same thing, sitting at the picnic table, getting all the forms taken care of, but then, set that all aside and talk farming and, oh, you do it this way? Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, well, I'll do it that way. That kind of, I mean, it's just um, uh, it's a much nicer program. Also, I think explaining to a lot of your customers that, being organic really doesn't mean that you have to have a label. It just means you want to know what I'm doing in my soil. Let me tell you what I'm doing in my soil. You want to know if I'm spraying anything. Well, let me tell you if I am or not, or whatever, you want to come and visit the farm? Yes, please do, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a program that fits my farm much better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do like the Real Organic program,
Yeah.
but you can't be there unless you are certified organic through the
Mm-hmm.
USDA, unfortunately. And I know Lindley Dixon and I have had a couple conversations about it, and
Mm-hmm.
I know she thinks about it. And then the recent podcast with Emily Oakley
Mm-hmm.
was she would like to scoop all of us up into organic somehow,
Mm-hmm.
but or real organic, I'm sorry,
Right.
into the real organic somehow. But you know, I don't know where that'll all end up.
Yeah.
I don't know if we really need these labels,
Mm.
et cetera. But I do like to have somebody kind of come in and look at what I'm doing and also impart some information about, the more and more organic type of or sustainable type of practices as we go
Mm-hmm.
along in life. So I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. That's great.
Okay, that's a long story, but yeah, that's it.
I love it. All right,
Yeah, right.
final question because it's getting late. But is there anything you would go back and tell your first year self if you could?
My first year,
Your first year farming, if you could go back in time and talk to that Ed, what would you tell him?
uh, boy, that's a hard question there. Um, what would I tell myself back then? Probably. Probably just always I don't know, just always probably what I would have told myself back then is, why didn't I do this earlier in my life? That yeah, there's the answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, we're excited to see you continue to grow for many, many years to come.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people ask me, like, aren't you ready to retire now, type of thing. And I go, no, I'm too young to retire. I'm only 73 and I feel like I'm 40 and I'm enjoying everything I'm doing except for the stressful parts, but that's okay. That comes along with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
But I love doing it. I love being, uh, I love being a part of a better food system, especially, and helping people, stay healthy. And so that's just my thing in life, that kind of thing. So I think I'm just going to keep on doing it until something tells me that I can't do it anymore,
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, thank you for being so gracious with your time and talking with us.
Oh, no problem. I love
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
love working with CNG and I love the program. And
Thank you.
so, yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll be in touch. We'll keep an eye out for you.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Ed.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That was such a great conversation. I love talking with Ed. And I really loved how throughout the conversation he mentioned how much he leaned on mentors, conferences, and all these opportunities to talk and learn from other growers. And we hope that this podcast will become a place where you all can gather up knowledge and apply it directly to your operation. We want to say thank you so much to all who sent in questions. We really want this podcast to be a resource for our CNG community. And we are going to ask all the questions that are sent in. So please keep your eye out in our newsletter and on Instagram. We'll be announcing our upcoming topics and give you an opportunity to ask your questions then. Again, we would like to say thank you to the folks at King Garlic for making this episode possible. King Garlic supplies certified and organic heirloom garlic seed to growers nationwide. If you are inspired to expand your garlic crop after today's conversation, King Garlic has everything you need, from hardnecks and softnecks to planting guides to take the guesswork out of the process. Their seed is grown with care and fully CNG compliant, making it a perfect fit for our farmer community. As many of you know, garlic seed is hard to come by at the end of the season, but King Garlic, has some garlic seeds still available. So head on over to keenorganics.com to order your garlic seed today and grow with confidence from their farm to yours. As always, if you are interested in learning more about CNG or in certifying your farm, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly with any questions. You can reach me at Erin, ERIN, at naturallygrown.org. Catch up on past episodes of Field Notes on Spotify, YouTube, or on our website. And please stay tuned for many more episodes to come. We are just getting going.